Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. Hour number 3. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us. Coming up in a little bit, we'll be speaking with the lead guitarist for the band Live. They got a big show at the Joint at the Hard Rock. We're going to get to more of the stories of the day coming up here in just a little bit. But that sound means we're talking about the GCI guys at Realty One Group. And listen to this. If you or anyone you know is thinking of buying a home or moving from Cali, the GCI guys service is completely free. That's right. You pay them nothing, and our listeners get $1,000 in your hand at closing. So if you or someone you know want to buy a home, calls Realtor Lee Goldberg. It's free for services. You get $1,000 back. And wait, there's even more. You get a free moving truck and 6 months of home security. That's right, free. No hidden fees or games or anything like that. It's the GCI guys. I highly recommend you give them a call. It's a free educational resource. Call them right now, 702-902-3029. Again, that number, 702-902-3029. So we've been talking a lot, as many others have been, about mass shootings and gun control and what should be done. We talk about mental illness, right? Some people want to talk about video games. I like to talk about a little bit of everything. I talk about the words of Donald Trump. I talk about the NRA. I talk about, red flag laws. There's all sorts of different. It's not just one issue, the reason why we're having all these mass shootings. There are many issues. But I commended Walmart, Kroger's, and some of these companies for coming forward, getting rid of ammunition, and in some cases getting rid of some guns altogether. Well, listen to what Dick's Sporting Goods has done, according to their CEO. He says that they have destroyed $5 million worth of weapons. $5 million. Okay? Their CEO, Edward Stack, decided last year that the company would no longer sell firearms to anyone under 21 years old, which I agree. If you are not old enough to drink, you shouldn't be old enough to carry a weapon. That is my personal opinion. I agree with that. They also announced it would destroy its inventory of weapons rather than allow them to be sold by another retailer. Now, since then, $5 million of that gun's inventory has been turned into scrap metal, he said in an interview with CBS. And I think this is a good thing. First of all, don't you cry me a river and whine to me that Democrats are taking our Second Amendment away. That's not true. There's not one Democrat out there that wants to take all your guns away. There are some Democrats out there that want to take some of your guns away. That is a huge distinction. No logical Democrat out there has ever said, that I've ever heard, that they want to take all your guns away and want to take your rights away from the Second Amendment. No. That is a right-wing talking point. That is exactly what it is. Make no mistake about it. We're talking about weapons of war. We're talking about specific weapons, assault weapons. That is what we are talking about here. Now, if you disagree with that, that's fine. I think it's important to have a debate and have a discussion about it. But these people that want to, on the right, that want to say that Democrats want to take all your guns away, it's not true. It's a lie. It's a complete and utter lie. It's just like when people on the extreme left want to say they want to, a grandmother, on a mountain, you want to pull her off, throw her off the mountain, when it comes to Medicare and all, that's not true. Republicans want you to have health care. They just have different ways of going about it, as Democrats and Republicans have clashed on that. So what I'm trying to say is there are so many extremes to this story. There are so many extremes to this. But I think it is a good thing that Dick's Sporting Goods have given out or have destroyed $5 million worth of weapons. Yeah, I think that is a positive thing, and we'll take your phone calls on this. Do you think it's bad? Do you think it's wrong what Dick's Sporting Goods is doing? Destroying $5 million worth of weapons? Do you think it hurts the Second Amendment? Do you think it hurts your ability to buy weapons? Because let's be honest, there's many of other places you could buy guns legally. That number to call, 257-5396. Again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-257-5396. We're talking about Dick's Sporting Goods destroying $5 million worth of weapons. They're not the first to do this. Walmart got involved, and then we got Kroger's that got involved as well, right, Mr. Steiner?
Yeah. Did you read that part of the story? I think what's the CEO's name or the owner, whatever he is?
His name is Edward Stack, which is a great name, by the way.
Edward Stack.
Yeah.
I believe it says in that story that Stack, he says himself, he's a hunter. He supports the Second Amendment. He's all for guns, no problem. It's just after the Parkland shooting, and he found out what kind of weapon was used. He said, I can't have these AR-15s or whatever being sold on my shelf. So pretty amazing story.
Yeah, it is amazing. And I give him a lot of credit for that because obviously the company lost some money. You know, $5 million is a lot of money, whichever way you slice it. I don't care if you're a billionaire. I don't care if you're running Walmart. $5 million is a large chunk of change.
Not to mention what they would have made in future sales, too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I commend him for this. Do I think it's the answer that everyone should just stop selling guns? No. But I think these specific types of weapons, these assault weapons, it needs to be put to a halt. I understand there's plenty of responsible gun owners out there. I understand that there's plenty of people out there that would not kill innocent people with an AR-15. Sadly, there are some that would. I would rather them never fire a weapon. I would rather them never get their hands on a weapon. But if they are going to get their hands on a weapon, I'd much rather it be a handgun where less people will lose their lives than an AR-15, period. And when you look at the types of guns that have been used in these types of situations, don't you go on your high horse and say, well, this gun could do this and that gun can do this, and you don't know what you're talking about. This gun can do this. Tell me the weapons that have been used in these mass shootings, and then your argument is moot. Because these types of weapons have been used in many of these mass shootings. We'll take your phone calls now, 257-5396. Again, that number is 702-257-5396. Let's start off with Brady. Brady, what's going on?
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen. I want to bring up what Dick did, the sporting goods store with the guns. That's an absolute asinine mistake and a huge business plunder. And just like Colt did with the AR-15 just a month ago, they stopped making it. That is a huge business blunder, and they're caving to the lefty liberals. They're not going to take any of my guns. I'm going to mark. You can put that down on the radio. Nobody's going to take my guns or any other of us that believe in the Second Amendment.
This has nothing to do with the Second Amendment. Why do you keep bringing up the Second Amendment? This has nothing to do with the Second Amendment. I find it interesting, Brady, that your first concern is a business blunder, and you seem to have no concern for innocent people's lives. I find that very interesting with you. You selfishly talk about nobody's taking any of my guns away. You talk about it being a business blunder. You talk about the lefties, but yet you have absolutely no solution for these mass shootings. I've asked you before, what is your solution? And your solution is more guns, which is asinine.
No, you didn't let me finish.
All
you
right.
heard part of my answer before.
What's your solution? Let's hear it.
The solution is to have well-armed security in all places where it's a high area where you can be shot at.
So every
a
school,
Walmart, a church, a synagogue, a concert. Way more security presence. Way more people with guns carrying that are concealed that you don't even know.
So every business should have security. Who's going to pay for that, Brady?
The companies.
Oh, really?
You saw how much
So
MGM had to pay out. You
so-
saw that lawsuit that MGM had to pay out.
So-
that's who's going to pay for
So
it.
how many armed security guards should we have in a school? And you're talking about every school, right? Not
Every school, every 100 people in the school should have at least one security guard on each door.
So
Not
you're
open
saying
entrances.
so the average high school has what, about 400 or 500 students, maybe more. So you're saying every high school should have 5 armed security guards. Do you where's that?
At least 4. At least so they're watching all perimeters of that school. Who's coming in and out? Who's coming through the doors? That's not happening right now.
So I just want to be clear.
The schools here in Vegas are very vulnerable.
I want to be clear.
I'm hoping very much nothing happens here because these
we all
schools
hope
here
that.
are unprotected.
Okay, well, we all hope that. That's rather obvious unless you're a horrible human being. So your position, and I want to make sure I get your position right, your only solution to try to end mass shootings is just more security. You don't want to do anything when it comes to gun control. You don't want to do anything when it comes to red flag laws. You don't want to do anything when it comes to assault weapons. You don't want to do anything more when it comes to background checks. Brady's only solution.
Yes, I do. One thing like I said, with the background checks, this is where the system is failing because these people are allowed to buy these guns over the counter. They might be an AR-15, they might be a AK-47, but they're legal to buy. And when you have a background system that's been proposed for the last 10 years that's out there, when anybody can go in and get it, and they're not looked at on their mental facilities and how much psychotropic drugs they're on, and that doesn't come up on a background check, there's your problem.
Well, Brady, let me ask you this then, because you're obviously a Republican. Many Democrats are talking about comprehensive background checks. Why is it that Donald Trump and many of the Republicans refuse to take a vote on this?
Not sure. I think everything is getting stalled a little bit now because you're doing the Ukraine impeachment proceeding.
No, come on.
I'm going to give you some breaking news.
Hold on a second. Wait, hold on a second. You're factually inaccurate, okay? Do you remember what happened at Sandy Hook? Do you remember what happened in Las Vegas 2 years ago? There was nothing going on with Ukraine and President Donald Trump after the shooting here in Las Vegas. Brady, don't use the Ukrainians and the situation with this possible impeachment as an excuse.
I don't think he's being factually inaccurate with that statement because
what are you talking about?
3 weeks ago, Donald Trump stated very clearly that he's working on a bill for gun control.
He said the same thing after the Las Vegas shooting. He said
delayed because of this impeachment inquiry.
I disagree.
Of course it is.
He said the exact same thing after the Las Vegas shooting. What's your excuse there?
Can I say one more thing?
Go ahead. But can you respond to what I just said? Donald Trump.
I want to give you some breaking news because this is a huge thing that just came out, and it was from John Solomon. And guess what came out? 4 weeks before Trump said, "Hey, Ukraine, can you look into crazy Uncle Joe and his son and crackhead Hunter?
Yeah,
can you look
that's
into
very appropriate. That's very appropriate.
4 weeks before that, Ukrainian officials opened up an investigation into Burisma. So,
And 2 days, and Brady, by the way, what you failed to mention, 2 days before that phone call with the president of the Ukraine, Donald Trump held aid to the Ukrainians. But I notice how you failed to bring that up. What a shocker. 257-5396. He also fails to respond to what I said about Donald Trump and how he talked tough on guns after the Las Vegas shooting that left 58 people dead. So don't give me this garbage that you're going to use it as an excuse of what's going on with this situation with the Ukrainians because it's complete garbage.
He talked tough on bump stocks.
No, that's not all he said. That's not accurate.
Banned bump stocks within 6 months.
It's not all he said. You're not being accurate. What he said was he wanted to look into possible comprehensive background checks and red flag laws. He said that after the Las Vegas shooting. And what happened after these mass shootings in Texas, El Paso, is the same thing that happened back a couple of years ago in Las Vegas. He met with the head of the NRA, and all of a sudden, all he wants to talk about is mental illness, and that's it. Because Donald Trump is a coward, and anyone who wears the NRA knee pads and kisses the ass of those guys of the NRA because there's so much money involved is a coward. Make no mistake about it. This is not an excuse with what's going on with the Ukraine. That's ridiculous. We had Sandy Hook. We had this horrible shooting here in Las Vegas where 58 people lost their lives. 257-5396.
Well,
Let's go to.
Do you expect to get anything done while this Ukraine investigation is going on? Of course not.
It's an excuse.
It's not an excuse,
nothing's
Brian.
been done.
It is a distraction.
So what is the distraction?
It is a giant distraction to actually accomplishing things, to getting some laws passed and some legislation integrated.
If that is true with what you're saying.
It is absolutely true. How could you say that it isn't true?
So what is your excuse that nothing got done in the last 2 years since 58 people lost their lives at the Route 91 festival? What's the excuse there?
Bump stocks were banned.
Bump stocks is a joke, okay? Anybody can make a bump stock out of a rubber band.
Bump stocks were banned.
That is not going to save any lives, okay? Why is it that Donald Trump did nothing after the October 1 shooting 2 years ago? What is your excuse there? That's what I'm asking you.
What do you mean my excuse?
You're saying the Ukrainian situation is why there's no gun legislation in place, which is ridiculous.
2 days before the Ukrainian investigation opened, he stated specifically he was working on a bill.
And he said the exact same thing after the Las Vegas shooting. He said he was working on several bills and working with Democrats for gun legislation, for red flag laws, and he was willing to have a discussion with Democrats about assault weapons.
So obviously it is a distraction. It is.
So what is the distraction?
It is. What is the distraction?
2 years ago, what was the distraction?
Clearly, it is preventing anything from getting done in the government right now.
And what prevented him from getting something done 2 years ago?
That's very clear cut and simple to understand.
And what prevented him from getting something done 2 years ago?
He got something done. Bump stocks, like I said 4 times.
What prevented him from? And that's ridiculous. That's nothing. And what prevented him from getting something done after the Walmart shooting?
That's nothing in your eyes.
Okay,
right.
Well, I mean, you could turn a rubber band into a bump stock. It's not, or a belt. Okay, if somebody wants to do that, they can do it. What I'm asking you is, what about the Texas El Paso shooting at Walmart? What about the shootings in Texas? What about the shootings in these synagogues? What has happened then, and what has prevented Donald Trump? I know the answer. I'm asking you. What has prevented Donald Trump from talking tough and not getting anything done? What has prevented him from doing it?
Wait, define talking tough.
Define talking tough. Yeah. Okay, I'll repeat what I said from 2 years ago. Donald Trump talked about red flag laws. Donald Trump talked about comprehensive background checks, and he even said he was willing to work with Democrats on the assault weapons. Those are all the statements he made in the weeks after the October 1 shooting. No progress has been done. Nothing has been signed into law. And you got Mitch McConnell, who's done nothing.
So you're saying that there is not a distraction right now. This Ukrainian investigation is not a distraction at all. It's actually making it easier for the government to get things done.
First of all,
for Donald Trump to work on bills and to introduce legislation,
first of all,
it's making it difficult. It is an absolute distraction.
First of all, I didn't say it was easier. I don't know where you got that from, number one. And number two, I'm giving you...
If it's not easier, then it's harder, right?
I'm giving you specific examples of mass shootings like the one we had in our backyard where the president did nothing. And during that time, there was no investigation with the Ukrainians, okay? It didn't stop him from putting new legislation. It didn't stop him from doing that.
And let's talk about
let's
talk about the Ukrainian investigation.
You're not addressing what I said, though.
There's nothing to address, Brian. You're saying that he said the exact same thing 2 years ago.
He did.
Therefore, the statement that he made before the Ukrainian investigation opened up
nothing to do with it.
Is totally irrelevant.
It has nothing to do with it.
Brian,
and by the way,
he stated very clearly, I am working on a gun control bill.
That's what he said 2 years ago.
That's what he said 2 days before the investigation
And by the way,
started.
when you're the president,
so how do you know that he isn't doing
by the way,
that? How can you say, because you live in the White House, obviously, because you're on his cabinet, how can you say...
I don't live in the White House.
How can you say that this is not a distraction for him?
Easy, because I'm going by his prior history when he talked tough.
Because
why.
Because he's owned by the NRA and he's a coward.
Well, what did he do?
And anyone who thinks that he isn't is also a coward.
So what did he do then? I'm going by his prior history.
I told you what he did for the fifth time.
Bump stocks.
He banned bump stocks.
Oh, you think that's a sufficient response?
I suggest that it was a sufficient response.
So what's your excuse that it's not a sufficient response? Why did he have shortcomings? Whose fault is it?
When did I say that it was a sufficient response?
Okay,
I just said he got something
I understand.
done. And again, all I said here is that 2 days before the investigation started, he made a very clear statement that he was working on something. And since then, we've heard nothing. Why? Because now the attention is on the investigation.
Well, let me tell
and he
you
has to
something.
defend himself there.
Let me tell you something. First of all, that's his fault, number one. And number two, when you're the leader of the free world and you're the president of the United States, you should still be able to get things done just because you're being investigated for something. And by the way, if you're completely innocent and you did nothing wrong, you should be focusing on your job, not every second tweeting and going after Democrats, not every second going after Saturday Night Live, not every second going after women.
I'm not suggesting that's every second is obviously a stretch, Brian, so stop that.
Every day. Every day he's going after
people. He definitely sends 6 to 7 tweets every single day, and that's happened for a long time. That's also what got him elected. He has leveraged social media more than any other president. Again, I'm not suggesting that he spends his time wisely, because he clearly does not. All I said is that this is a distraction.
All right. Well, you know
clearly
what?
to getting something done, because he made a statement for the 6th time 2 days before the investigation started that he was working on a bill.
My response to that is maybe you shouldn't ask leaders of other countries for dirt on a political opponent. Let's take some phone calls. 257-5396. Go to Joel. Joel, what do you think?
What's up, Joel?
Hey, well, JD, the fact of the matter is the House passed legislation months ago on gun control, on background checks, and McConnell and the Senate haven't even taken it up. So to suggest that this is due to an impeachment investigation is just wrong. I mean, look at the history, man. It's been out there for months, and they refuse to take it up.
Right. No, I'm saying it's a distraction. It's one of the distractions.
No, wait a minute.
Am I disagreeing?
Distraction now, but
Joel, am I disagreeing that currently the government isn't bipartisan? Obviously, the government's not bipartisan at this point, and that's an issue. And if that bill was, since that bill was passed, it should have been addressed, but it hasn't been for a reason, because the Democrats and the Republicans don't get along right now on both sides of the government. That's just the way it is.
The fact of the matter is there's legislation out there, and has been for months before the impeachment even was started, even before this phone call took place in July. That legislation was passed in February. So where's the excuse that there are diversions or distractions is nonsense.
It's not an excuse. It is fact that this is clearly a distraction, and he made a statement 2 days before this happened. Okay. That is fact.
Joel makes a very good point there, though.
But good call, Joel.
Things waiting on the table for Mitch McConnell.
I'm sure there are several. I'm sure there's several things that the Republicans have put on the table that the Democrats haven't looked at too. Again, it's a bipartisan issue.
Nothing to do with gun legislation.
The government,
trust me,
is not working together right now.
Well, Joel makes a good point. 257.
So pick and choose whatever you want to choose, but that's what it comes down to.
257-5396. Go to Gary. Gary, you're next. What's up?
What's up, Gary?
Okay, I hope you don't hang up on me, okay? That's number one.
I hope you make a good point so I don't have to hang up on you.
All right. Any weapon is an assault weapon. That's
Not
for
true.
number one.
Not
Once
true.
you shoot a person,
Not true.
and you're shooting person,
Not true.
every bullet
Nope.
is shot.
Not true.
out
That's
of
a
that
ridiculous.
weapon,
No, a
okay,
handgun is not an
is an
assault weapon.
assault
Not true.
weapon.
No, not true. Is a knife an assault weapon? That's not true. Every gun is different. Every caliber is different. The bullets are different. The ammunition is different. The amount of time that you can squeeze out a number of bullets in a number of seconds is different. So no, that's not factually accurate, Gary.
Now, can I talk?
Well,
Can
you
I
just said.
talk now?
Well, you can say something that makes sense. That was not factually accurate.
Okay.
No, it's not okay.
Take
But
your
go ahead.
assault weapons, what you call assault weapons.
No, it's not what I
could
call them,
put
sir.
2 to 3 clips to a 45, and how many bullets do I got?
What type of guns were used at Walmart? What type of guns were used on October 1? Don't lecture me on guns. I'm talking about the specific guns
You'll
that
have
were used in
all-
these mass
if
shootings.
They take stuff away from the people under the Second Amendment. You're going to have
This
some
has
bad
nothing to do with the
guys
Second
out there.
Amendment. Nobody's taking
Okay.
away all your guns. This has nothing to do with the
Wait a
Second
minute.
Amendment.
Let
What's
me
your
talk.
solution? Well, you're not
Will you
making
let
any
me
sense.
talk?
You're not making any sense, Gary.
I'm
Every
making
gun
sense.
is an
You're
assault.
the one that don't have
So,
no sense.
uh-huh.
You talk
So
for 10
every
minutes
gun,
on the radio,
every gun. Actually, I talked
and
for
you
3
waste
hours.
time.
Actually, I talked for 3 hours. Well, then you're the one that's listening. So guess you're wasting your own time, then, aren't you, Gary? Because you're the one that dialed with
Did
your
you
little
serve
Trump
in the
hands and called in.
military?
You're
Did you serve in the military?
So because I didn't serve in the military, your opinion is more
Hey,
valid than mine?
Brian, why did you say his little Trump hands? What makes you think
How
he's a
it's
Trump
made?
supporter?
Gary, because you served in the military and I didn't, my opinion is less
Yeah,
valid than yours.
Gary-
Is that your position, Gary?
Gary, are you a Trump supporter?
I'll say so. If when you have 2 tours,
Then
in
you are.
Vietnam
You know
or
what,
the
sir?
war that's going
You know
on
what,
today,
sir? Let me
right?
tell you
Police
something.
action
Let me
again,
let me.
right?
Okay, Gary.
Then you have more rights.
All right,
to
hang
say
up on
so.
him. Hang up on him. Let me tell you something, Gary. You don't have more rights than me. I appreciate the fact that you served the military, and in my regards for you is that you're a hero. But make no mistake about it, just because you served in the military and I didn't, by the way, your all-star friend Donald Trump, who had bone spurs, didn't serve in the military either. Just because you served in the military and I didn't, doesn't mean that your opinion is more valid than mine, okay?
What he's saying is he has more experience with weapons and guns, and you don't.
Gary
And
just
because he served a couple of tours, and I'm sure he actually
ridiculous.
handled and has
All
some
right.
weapons training.
So let me ask
which
you
is
a
a
question.
legitimate statement again, but he didn't say it correctly.
Gary just said that every gun is an assault weapon. On the record, JD, do you agree with that statement?
What, on the record?
Yeah.
Okay. What he meant by that, I'm assuming what he meant by that is that every single gun can be used to commit assault.
A knife could be used to commit an assault.
Exactly.
A pen could be
by
used to
by
commit
that
an
logic,
assault.
every single weapon is an assault
so
weapon.
he made absolutely no sense. He doesn't want to address the actual root. We got a couple more phone calls we got to get to. Why don't we go to Chuck? Chuck, I got about 30 seconds for you. Go, my friend.
Hey, so what did Bill Clinton do with gun control? What did Ronald Reagan do with gun control?
So if you want to play
What
that
did
game,
Obama-
I'll answer your question.
What did Obama
It's not
do
even.
with gun
It's not a
control?
game. It's a legitimate question.
I'll answer that question. Not enough,
No,
my
yeah,
friend.
I'm not done.
enough.
I'm not done. I'm not done.
Okay, well, we don't have
So
time. I
when
said I
you-
gave you
when you-
30 seconds.
You know when you're well, it's my 30 seconds, not yours.
Actually, goodbye, Chuck. You just lost your 22 seconds. Goodbye. Nothing is yours. You called in. We call the shots, not you. And
Yeah,
I know
thanks for the call, Chuck.
you're doing about whataboutism. Bill Clinton, Ronald Reagan, Barack Obama. By the way, we didn't have the issue that we have now, as big of an issue as mass shootings is now as we did 30 years ago, Chuck. Number one. Number two.
Oh, and also, Donald Trump is the cause for the hate crime in Germany yesterday, Brian.
Yeah. Sorry, Chuck, I took that 22 seconds away because you certainly owned that time. You did such a nice job, Mr. Whataboutism. Let's go to Andre. Andre, I got about 30 seconds for you, my friend, and then I got to take a break. Go ahead.
What's up, Andre?
Did we lose Andre? I think Andre wanted to say the House hasn't done anything either. He's right. He makes a valid point there. I think that was what he was going to say. I think he was on his Obama phone, so we couldn't get through to him.
When the government isn't agreeing with each other, and the media is perpetuating that, they want the government not to agree with each other because it gets them ratings. It isolates their viewers on one side, which is exactly what they want. But when that happens, nothing is going to get done.
JD,
that's why a bipartisan government is so important.
JD, I have an idea that we are going to continue to talk about this. This is not going away. I think you and I agree on some things when it comes to gun control, and we disagree on some other things, which is fine. I like getting into good debates with people, but when somebody calls up and they say that all guns are assault weapons, I mean, that's where you just lose all credibility in starting a phone call like that. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, this is going to be a lot of fun. The lead guitar player for the band Live is going to be joining us. They're going to be playing at the Joint at the Hard Rock Friday. Chad Taylor joining us next year on the Vegas Take. We'll be back. Take a break. Be back right after this.